Okay, another math video from algebratesthelper.com. And what I want to focus on in this video is solving this system. Okay, this is a system of equations. And I'm going to solve this system using the substitution method. So we're going to go through the steps on how to do that. But before we get started, a couple things. One, this is a pretty easy system to solve. So if you're studying systems, you might say, well, this is pretty easy. And it is. But I'm just going to be using this particular video, this example, just to kind of go through the steps, but I'll be doing a ton of other ones. So make sure you come to our site, algebratesthelper.com, to see more examples of systems. But anyways, when you're solving a system, you can use the substitution method or the elimination combination method. And there's a couple other things you could do too to solve it, but I'm going to focus in on the substitution method. Okay, when you're solving a system using the substitution method, the first thing you need to do is you need to solve for one of the variables in one of the equations. Okay, so how many variables can we solve for? Well, I could solve for this one, okay, or maybe I could solve for this one. Okay, so I have x and y. I have two variables in that first equation I could solve for, but I could also solve for this x in the second equation or the y in the second equation. So you have four choices of what variable to solve for. So this is your first step. Now, it doesn't make a difference which one you decide to solve for. You might want to solve for the x, for example, in the second equation. If you do all these steps correct, you're still going to get the correct answer. You're still going to get the right answer. But you do want to work smarter, not harder. So you want to, take a look at the equations and see which variable is the easiest to solve for. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to solve for the y in the first equation. So let's go over here and talk about how to do that. So here's my first equation, x plus y equals -2. Okay, so I said that I wanted to solve for the y in our first equation. So this is kind of a common area where students get confused. So solving for y in the first means that I'm going to look at y and I'm going to think of it as the only variable in the equation. So x over here, you can kind of think of it as if it was a number. So for example, let me just erase that. Okay, let's put 6 here. So if I had this equation 6 plus y equals -2, and I said solve for y, you would just say, okay, not a problem. I'll subtract 6 from both sides of the equation and just proceed from there, and you'd be correct. Okay, so what we're going to do when we're solving for y, but there's an x here, we're still going to do the same step. Okay, just think of everything else other than the variable you're trying to solve for. Treat it as a number. Okay, so if you subtract x from both sides of the equation, you end up with y equals -2 minus x. Okay, so if you can do this, if you can solve for these variables, then the substitution method should be pretty easy. Okay, so let's write this up here. I first started off, my first step was I decided to solve for y in the first equation. Now I want you to pay close attention here. Okay, I'm going to give you some kind of like tricks of the trade, okay, some things that are going to help you out. As soon as you get done solving for a particular variable, I want you to put parentheses around that expression, okay, and then put a box around it, okay, and I'll explain in a moment why. The parentheses are going to help you to avoid making some common mistakes, and this box is just going to be a reminder, but as we finish the problem, you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, let's move on to step 2. Okay, so we solved for y in the first equation. Now in the other equation, okay, I solved for y in the first, so in the other equation, you're going to replace that y, okay? You're going to replace the y, because that's the variable you solved for in the first, and you're going to replace it with all of this right here, okay? This is what you're going to, well, you're going to replace it or substitute, okay? So this is where the name substitution method comes in. So let's go ahead and do that now. So that's going to be 3x plus, okay, so now this is going to be -2 minus x equals 4. Now let's take a look at our equations here. Okay, the first in our system, this is our system, each one of these equations have x and y. So you really can't solve this directly. But now look at this equation here. After I substitute in this -2 minus x, this entire equation has x's. So it's pretty easy. It's just a regular run-of-the-mill equation in algebra. So let's go ahead and solve for x. 3x plus -2 minus x equals 4. Okay, so I'll combine like terms. And of course, if you can't do these equations, you're going to have a tough time solving systems. So you want to go back and review basic equations if you're struggling a bit. So this would be 2x minus 2 equals 4. I'm going to add 2 to both sides of the equation. I get 2x equals 6. And notice how I'm writing everything out. Okay, that's what your teacher wants to see. Okay, show all your work, all your steps. And now lastly, I'm going to divide 2 by both sides of the equation. I get x is equal to 3. Okay, so let's just real quick, remember when you're solving for a system, okay, these are two lines. This is a line and this is a line. If I actually graph the line and they cross, that's the solution. So they're going to cross at some xy point, and what we just found here, oops, I want to do that. What we just found, okay, that x coordinate is going to be 3. All right, so now what we need is this y coordinate, and we'll be done. We'll have our solution. So remember back in the beginning, step 1, I said draw a box around that first step. Okay, so we have y equals negative 2x, negative 2 minus x. So to get y, all you have to do is just take this x value and plug it right up here in this first equation, and you're done. So y is going to be equal to minus 2 minus 3, where y is equal to negative 5. And that's it. That's a solution to your system. So your xy point, okay, is going to be 3, negative 5. And just be careful when you're writing down these order pairs, that you don't reverse them accidentally. Okay, so I hope this video helped you out. Please come by our website, algebratesthelper.com. It's a free resource filled with all kinds of videos and awesome tutorials. So our whole purpose is to make math easy to learn. All right, so take care and good luck.